There are so many ways to cruise the Nile. There are the large river cruise ships that most people know about, but I'm going to share with you a little secret. The best way to see the real Egypt is on a sailboat, and it's called a dahabiya. This is the classic way to see the Nile, and in fact, this was the only way to travel the Nile between the late 18th century and early 19th century. These two-masted dahabiya boats are based on the original design, so that means they're sailboats with no engines. It's straight from the golden age of travel when travelers from the West would come to Egypt with a thirst for adventure and warmth. They started off as houseboats, became more and more luxurious, and evolved into elegant wooden passenger cruisers, beautifully decorated with every comfort. Today, companies like Djed Egypt Travel operate a small fleet of these, and they run either up or down river between Aswan near Luxor and Aswan. So what's it like to cruise the Nile in a dahabiya? Well, I'm going upriver for the next 4 nights, so let me show you. We're aboard the Loulia, which is one of the boats in the Djed fleet. Let me show you the 2 decks of the boat. The Loulia was built in 2011, and when you're on this ship, it really does feel like you're being transported back to the golden age of travel. This dahabiya is large enough for 12 passengers with 4 cabins and 2 suites, and comes with a crew complement of 10. On the upper deck is where you'll be spending most of your time. It's a wooden floor here, and it's cleaned by the crew every single day. Let's start off with the front of the ship, where there are stairs up from the lower deck, and you have deck chairs and a canopied roof. Whether in the sun or in the shade, this is the perfect place to read a book, watch the Nile River, or take a nap. In the middle of the boat is, of course, the dining table, and this is where you'll be having all of your meetings and meals as a group, but we'll get into food in a little bit. There's even a fly zapper up here for the evenings. Now let's head to the rear of the ship. At the very back is where the crew will be manning the rudder with its ropes and pulleys. Otherwise, it's carpeted, so you can hang out here if you'd like. The rear of the ship is also where the stairs are from the cabins, so you'll be using this access way quite frequently. Starting from the back, you have a set of comfy couches with coffee table here, or there's also another one a little further up that's also a great place to lounge with a group. If one-on-one games is your thing, this table has chess set up and other board games, or head down to this cushioned area on the ground where you'll also find different games. Or bring magazines and books from the library to read, which we did quite often. The hammock is probably my favorite part. It's only for one, but is another great place to chill out on the dahabiya. Besides all the main lounge zones on the boat, you also have greenery and decor that matches the theme of this dahabiya, which is all about that legendary age of travel. And that's the upper deck of the Dahabiya Loulia. Now let's head to the lower deck. To start off, the lower deck of the dahabiya is where you'll be boarding and disembarking the ship from, whether from a pier or a makeshift stop. Every time you board the ship, you'll be greeted by the crew with a welcome drink, which is always a nice touch. You'll take off your shoes at this point because the rest of the ship is a no-shoes zone to keep things clean. For the most part, the front of the ship is for the crew, as you have the kitchen to the right, crew quarters to the left, and where most of the captaining is done is right here as well, other than the rudder in the rear. It's also worth noting here that there is no engine on the boat because there are no motors other than the electrical generators that's run at certain hours. This makes for a tranquil sailing experience. From the front, you can access the rest of the lower deck. You first start off with the lovely salon and lounge area with its dining table, comfortable sofa, and library. There is a ton of attention to detail here with, again, more decor from the time period and the general sense of it feeling very homely. The library is full of books about the Nile and ancient Egypt, so if you're looking to brush up on history or read about the Nile, you'll be sure to find it here. There's real elegance and strong connection with the dahabiya past here. Not only do I love the decor of the boat, but also the rooms themselves. Here's a look at what the cabins are like. There's a long hallway that connects the salon to the rear stairs to the upper deck. This hallway gives you access to the 4 standard cabins of the dahabiya, and at the very back are the 2 suites that are larger and have an open terrace with views of the water. The hallway is decorated with classic hand-drawn maps and pictures of what Egypt was like during that period of archaeological discovery. Let's take a look at our very own cabin, which is a double bedroom. Using the brass key, you'll enter into a surprisingly spacious cabin. The bed itself is incredibly comfortable with a just right firmness of a mattress and hotel-like plush sheets. Inside the cabin, you'll also find a chair, air condition, 2 side tables, and a closet organizer. The cabin continues the theme of feeling very homely and almost that cottage experience on a boat with oriental furniture, hand-woven rug, paintings, other antiques, and that lovely wallpaper. At your door is also a hook for your keys or coat, light switch, and a nifty LED light for when the power generators aren't running. There are 2 large French windows that face out into the Nile, perfect for endless gazing. The ensuite bathroom has everything that you need, from a large sink bowl, toilet, and plenty of space to put your toiletries. The bathtub has a full sliding door, which means it also doubles as a shower. Towels, of course, are included, and you'll love the beautifully patterned tiles and the decor. If you're curious, there are 2 outlets in the bathroom and 2 in the main part of the cabin, which means you'll have plenty of outlets to charge your electronics. One of my favorite parts about the Dahabiya experience is the food. Everything is inclusive, including breakfast, lunch, afternoon tea, and dinner. There's a lot of food I want to show you here. Let's start with breakfast. A hearty breakfast is what you need to get a good start to the day, and the chef does amazing here each and every day. I'd say out of all the meals, breakfast is the most predictable because you'll have your fresh fruit juices, coffee, tea, milk, veggies and cheese, bread and pita, spread, yogurt, and hard-boiled eggs every day. But you also have new daily items like foul, crepes, and omelets. Now, lunch is always amazing because of the bountiful amounts of food you got to have. From the salad starters, to tagine in clay pots, and meat dishes, you always came out of it super satisfied. Now take a look at some of the things that we had over the course of our 4 days. Afternoon tea is pretty casual with its coffee, tea, and biscuits. It's open to anyone that wants it in the afternoon. During the winter months, the sun sets early, so that's why it's always dark by the time it's dinner. Most of us would wear nicer clothes for this meal and also cover up because it does get chilly. Every dinner starts with soup, followed by vegetables, rice, pita, tagine, and a different type of meat each evening. Close off with a delicious Egyptian pastry dessert. All of the incredible Egyptian dishes are the creation of your private chef that you have on board. All the ingredients are fresh and all the food prepared and cooked from scratch. Getting a chance to spend some time with him, I was amazed at how much he could do in the tiny kitchen on the Dahabiya. Here, he's preparing one of our lunches and putting together one of the best dishes that he made for us, I thought, for lunch, called a fatir, or simply Egyptian pizza. Oh, and here's a hot tip. When you're at the local market, make sure you pick up figs and mangoes because they are so sweet if they're in season. The main reason why cruise ships in Dahabiya sail between Esna and Aswan and vice versa is because of the wealth of monuments, ruins, temples, and village life. But what makes the Dahabiya specifically more special is because it's a lot smaller and maneuverable, so it can actually get to a lot of places that simply the cruise ships can't get to because there are no ports. So for example, the quarry and also the El Kab tombs. Over the course of the 4-day itinerary, here's what you can expect to see. If you're going from Esna to Aswan, your group of travel mates will converge on the town of Esna from Luxor, and that's where your experience starts. Meeting your Egyptologist, you'll learn about the Esna Temple. From the temple, you'll walk over to the local Esna market and get a real glimpse into what local life is like. Once you're on board, the excursions work pretty similarly. There are excursions either in the morning or the afternoon, and once the boat docks, you'll disembark as a group and your Egyptologist will guide you through the site. Here we are at the El Kab tombs, a tomb for the nobles which you'll love because of how off the beaten path it is. What you really appreciate about your Dahabiya Egyptologist is how good they are at telling the ancient Egyptian stories, making them truly come alive, and through live translations of the hieroglyphs that you're looking at. Another sight you'll get to see starts off with the horse carriage ride through the town of Edfu. The Temple of Edfu is one of the most impressive temples you'll get to see, with its giant pylon entrance, courtyard, and sacred interior. The Temple of Kamambo was built to pay homage to the crocodile god and Horus the Elder. The Temple of Horemheb and Gebel El Silsila quarry is an example of a site that the large cruise ships just can't get to. The quarry is simply fascinating and incredible to walk through in person. The other part of the Nile sailing cruise that you'll really appreciate are the walks through the local villages. You'll see petroglyphs that go back tens of thousands of years, farms where dates are being dried in the sun, and where locals on the Nile live and make a living. Your Nile cruise will also take you to the village of Darwa, where there's the world's largest camel market. You'll also walk through the Darwa market. After your excursion, you'll board the Dahabiya again, and at one point you'll even get to swim in the Nile. Another advantage of the Dahabiya is that the group sizes are small and you have a dedicated Egyptologist as a guide. While excursions are a huge highlight, you'll appreciate the downtime that you'll have on board, where you'll be able to hang out on the upper deck in lounge zones I spoke about earlier, chat with your new friends, enjoy the sights that pass by along the Nile, or head down to your cabin to relax. It's probably worth explaining that while this is a sailboat, in the interest of speed, a tugboat will be with you during your trip and pulling the Dahabiya on most occasions. That said, on afternoons when the wind is favorable, the crew will open up the canvas sails and let Mother Nature do the work. Sailing from Esna to Aswan typically has higher chances of this because of the direction of the wind. The tranquility and calm of sailing is truly special when the tugboat moves off and all you hear is the fluttering of the sails in the wind. So enough from me talking about the Dahabiya experience. Why don't we hear from our Egyptologist on board, Abdullah.
I work with the Djed company or the Djed Egypt since 18 years. I like to share my information with the tourists and show them around. And Egypt is full with antiquity and touristic site, and it's nice to visit all those places. The best part about traveling in Egypt that to visit the village and the countryside and the people, the market, and because all the tourists used to visit the classical places, temples, tomb, but I want people come to visit my country and show the life of the Egyptian, the countryside, the village, the coffee shop. In the Dahabiya, it's a small boat and you feel like at home, and we do special trip. We visit the countryside, we stop in some places. The big Nile cruise boat couldn't stop, and you feel at home. We serve most of the time Egyptian food, we have a sale, and we used to travel in the daytime to show you all around. Djed is a good company because they take care about the tourists, and we take them to the touristic sites, and we take them to the local market, local streets. And the team of Djed is all friendly, and we like the tourists come to us.
The Dahabiya is hands down the best experience in Egypt. It's so good that I've done it for 2 times. Well, hopefully this video gave you a lot of information about what to expect and answered a lot of questions that you had about the Dahabiya experience. The company we used to book everything was Djed Egypt Travel, and they're the ones that own Nile Dahabiya boats as well. So if you're planning a trip, make sure you reach out with the Going Awesome Places referral. Details in the description. Make sure you watch all the other videos that I have from this trip in Egypt. Thank you guys for watching. As usual, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.
I think Egypt is a great country and it's deserved to visit. We have good location, good weather, and special culture. If you didn't travel to Egypt, you didn't make travel. You're welcome to Egypt, waiting for you.
This one and this one. On the way. Push with your feet.
Hey, this was way harder than it looks. Happy cruising! Just be glad that I'm not your captain.